In this video, I'll be talking about everything you need to know to prepare for the online NMAT. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Luis. I'm a third-year medical student from the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. And in the past, I've made several videos about the NMAT and how to prepare for it. But with the shift to an online setting for the NMAT, I decided to make this video to cover what specific steps you need to take in order to prepare for this exam. Over the course of this video, I'll be discussing the online versus physical NMAT and discuss some specific tips and strategies to help you prepare for this exam. Later in this video, I'll be interviewing my friend Mia, who scored a 99 plus on his exam, and to put that into perspective, the 99 plus are the top scorers among the top 1% of scorers within the exam, so they're as the cream of the crop as it gets. But before we delve into Mia's experiences about the NMAT, let's first discuss the differences between the physical NMAT and the online NMAT. In comparing the in-person and online NMAT, there are only three main differences that you have to consider: the structure, the time limit, and the way that the questions are presented. In terms of test structure, the online NMAT still has the exact same coverage as the in-person NMAT in that Part 1 covers verbal, quantitative, inductive reasoning, and visual acuity, while Part 2 covers the three major sciences: biology, chemistry, and physics, and the social sciences: psychology, sociology, and anthropology. What's different in the online NMAT is that the number of questions for each part is greatly reduced. In the in-person NMAT, Part 1 consisted of 40 questions per subtest, while Part 2 consisted of 50 questions per subtest. However, in the online NMAT, both parts just consist of 30 questions per subtest. And as a result, that will affect the total time that will take for you to accomplish the exam. This brings me to the time difference between the online and physical NMAT. The online NMAT is only 4 hours long compared to the in-person NMAT, which was 5.5 hours long. On top of this, you don't even need to account for travel time anymore, because back in the day when I took the NMAT, I had to wake up early in order to travel to the testing site and avoid traffic. But now, you can wake up relatively later and still make it on time for the exam. You just have to account for the fact that you are required to enter a proctored room before you can take the exam, which will be discussed later on in the video. And probably a benefit of the exam being shorter is that it won't take up an entire day to accomplish. Compared to the online NMAT, the in-person NMAT would take an entire day, because there'd be a morning session for Part 1, a lunch break in between, then the afternoon session for Part 2. And lastly, the way that the questions are presented. In the in-person NMAT, they give you the entire question booklet, so if you wanted to answer fast, you could, and you can easily build momentum answering each question one after the other. However, in the online NMAT, they only present each question one at a time, and this can make it hard to build momentum after each question since you have to wait for each page to load. So let's now move on to the preparation process and what specific steps you need to take in order to prepare well for the online NMAT. How was the experience of taking the NMAT online?
It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But harder in the sense that it was very different from what I heard from my upperclassmen. So for example, like in the Part 1 tests, you know how like the review centers all teach you techniques about how to guess like the right mirror image, or like how to pick out images different from the other images. You can't do the thing where you like cover the images with the paper and then do it horizontally, because the questions on the MSB, the safe browser that they use for the NMAT, are top to bottom. So the choices wouldn't be like from left to right. They'll be from top to bottom. So it's a new experience, definitely. It's a bit difficult, and it doesn't really feel like you're taking a test. More like you're doing like some online quiz or something. So, and the fact that you're doing it in your room as well takes away from like how serious a test can be at times.
So I heard that you have to prepare certain things for the NMAT, because like, for example, I heard that the browser just doesn't work on any operating system and you have to use Windows specifically, right? So like what other things did you need to prepare specifically just for the NMAT?
They don't allow the use of a scratch paper. So you have two options. You can either use the scratch paper that they provide, like a digital scratch paper on the testing website itself. But that proves a bit too slow. My recommendation would be to prepare a whiteboard, of course, and whiteboard markers to use as your scratch paper. The proctors will make it so that you have to show your whiteboard every time you move on to a new question. So every after a question, you have to erase the whiteboard and then rewrite on it again. Aside from that, of course, have your testing permits ready and stuff at all times.
Like in the normal NMAT, is that I would like line up outside the testing center. Is there something similar to that? Because I've heard that there's a queue just to get into the proctored rooms for the NMAT.
Yeah, actually. So 8, sorry, the test starts at 8 pala, but they expect you to be there at 6:30 so that they can process you going into the test right away. At Around 7 o'clock, that's when it becomes a bit clogged. Most of the test takers wouldn't want to get up so early just to prepare for the test, right? At 7 o'clock, that's when it takes like a processing time. I don't know if you've been like on online servers before where they like hold people up in a bottleneck before letting you in. So you have to wait a few minutes to actually get in.
Problems that you encounter in your preparation as the whole preparation process shifted to online?
Classes in general online were being figured out pa lang. Like it was like a new thing, right? Like how teachers were supposed to teach online, like using Zoom and stuff. So that was very difficult. That probably lends to the fact also that I didn't have a very good experience with review center. I'm sure many of you can relate, but like how a lot of people like studying in groups with other people around so that they can help each other figure out how to answer certain items and stuff. You don't really have that online because one, the availability of everybody isn't always guaranteed. And then two, like syempre there's like the sending the pictures online and then having them translated for you and then bring it back. Like it's different. It's a completely different field. So of course there's that aspect as well.
On the preparation side, in terms of like studying with people, how did you overcome these challenges? Because I hear that like there were a lot of online communities that popped up as a result of the NMAT shifting to online, and there like a lot of people were sharing materials and all that. Did you partake in those types of activity?
When we found out the date of our NMAT, a lot of people started making all of these group chats and Facebook groups that group together people so that they could like discuss different topics about the NMAT, like how it would be. It kind of felt like a support system. Like everybody would be reminding everybody, like, hey, you need this, hey, you need that, hey, you need to study this, hey, you need to study that. And then on the flip side, everybody would be sending in like all of these questions from previous reviewers, not even the ones that SEM themselves provided. So they'd be asked questions like, hey, how do you solve this? Like, hey, how do you solve that? And then you'd see that everybody was really helping each other try to solve the questions. So I learned a lot from those groups actually, like especially with regards to physics, because most of those people gave me like shortcuts or like faster ways on how I can solve the problems without having to fully understand them. So that aspect made up for the fact that I couldn't study with my friends or like my immediate study group, but I had like a separate group of people who could like aid me.
Yeah, and I have to agree. Like even when I was preparing for the NMAT, even like without the pandemic ongoing, my friends would share review materials on our group chats. Like even though we went to different review centers, we'd still exchange review materials with one another. Para we'd have more review materials to go over in our preparation. I think that
Right,
that's like super
exactly.
important because like practice are really important for the NMAT. I think I've like stated over and over in my previous videos that like if there's one technique that I could really do is like just practice tests over and over
Yeah,
again.
yeah, exactly. That's what I did also actually. It really helps. Like when people say just to hit the practice tests and just constantly keep practicing over and over. It's not a lie. Like that's what you should be doing. Because
Yeah.
more likely than not, the types of questions seen on the practice test or the samplexes will be the ones that come out in the actual NMAT too.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, there's only so many ways they can spin the same concept. So like,
Right, yeah.
even though it's not this exact same question, how it's structured, like you'll recognize it and you'll know how to apply it. Because a lot of it's
Yeah.
like just applying the basic concept. If you understand the concept, it's very easy now. So what strategies did you employ during your NMAT preparation that you think most helped you get that 99 plus?
Okay, well, first of all, and I'm not joking, procrastination and rest helped a lot. So, um, I'm not the type of person who can study for hours on end, right? So it helped me a lot that I got lazy to study sometimes because it refreshed my brain. Like you take frequent rest so that whatever you read or whatever you're studying at the moment actually stays in your head. Like it finds a place in your long-term memory rather than studying for hours on end and then not having anything enter in the first place. Second, of course, we already mentioned it a while ago, but it's to basically use the practice tests. Just keep going through them over and over. There was this one practice test that I did around, I think, 10 times before the actual NMAT. Because you'd be surprised. Like, most people would think that if you go through a practice test more than once, like, you'd know already how to answer, right? Like, if you space the time that you answered the test the first time and then the second time and succeeding times after, you'll forget like, hey, this is how to answer this question pala, this is how to answer that question. So doing it more and more teaches you more the concepts behind the question rather than like learning the overall concept. The NMAT is a test that tests how you do things, not how much you learned. I think that's my take on the NMAT. And that's why I was able to get a 99 plus, because I honestly can't tell you confidently now that I'm good at physics or chemistry or bio. I just know like how to answer the questions that the NMAT gave out. Third is, again, we mentioned it earlier, find your support group. That really helped, because you're really going to need people to like bounce ideas off of, and teach you certain concepts. Like for me, I'd say my strengths were quanti, math, and chem. So, and then I had friends who were good at physics and bio and the other subject fields. And so when we all got together, we were able to teach each other like how to approach certain numbers, how to go about certain items. And then overall, we all ended up getting really good scores.
Okay, so just to clarify on your like whole procrastination, like it's not really necessary procrastination. It's that remember to
Like,
take breaks. You know,
active
like
rest.
yeah, active rest. Like don't just like study all day long. Like even in med school, like you shouldn't be studying for like more than 4 hours straight. You're like if you notice the moment your mind is already starting to drift off and nothing is sticking from the paragraphs of text you're reading, you should probably just take a break and stretch your legs for a bit before sitting down again to study. On top of that, do you have any more advice for people who'll be taking the NMAT in the future, online or otherwise?
I know that there's a lot of pressure to get high on the NMAT, because that's the thing that med schools judge your application on, right? But if you feel bad that you can't get a good score in the NMAT, it doesn't measure anything. Like, it honestly doesn't measure anything that a med school is looking for. The things that I studied for in the NMAT, I'm 100% sure they're never gonna come out in med school. Like Bernoulli's principle. What the hell is that? I don't know. I don't know what that is. It doesn't matter. So when you're approaching the NMAT, approach it as the type of test that you're only looking to answer. You're not looking to learn from, because there's nothing to learn from taking the NMAT. In essence, don't be too hard on yourself when you're studying for the NMAT, and surround yourself with people that will make you believe that you're still the same person you think you are after you take your NMAT and after you get your results.
So I hope you guys learned a lot from listening to Mio's experiences in preparing for the NMAT. And if you want to learn more about how you can prepare well for this exam, check out my NMAT playlist here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.